Hello, Guyana, and welcome back to our coverage here of Budget 2024. We've been covering the budget from start to this current stage where we've got some more opposition speakers that have had the opportunity to address the budget. Right now, we're going to speak with MP Amanza Walton Desir. She's going to give a little bit more insight into what she spoke about in her budget presentation. MP Amanza, thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And you have really been doing a very good job at the coverage here.
Thank you. Well, we've got to continue to help the Guyanese people be informed. And I think you did a great job of informing the Guyanese people as to the way that our foreign ministry is, the many ways that we're lacking in terms
Right.
of our appointments and in terms of robust effort by the foreign ministry. I don't know if you want to elaborate a bit on what you mentioned in your presentation.
Well, I first wanted to observe that we had the opportunity to hear the Minister of Foreign Affairs make his budget presentation yesterday. And what struck me is that he spent most of his presentation, at least three quarters of it, on
Yeah.
every other sector except foreign relations. And given the fact that we are embroiled in a
Exactly.
controversy, there's an existing threat to our territorial integrity.
Absolutely.
One would have thought that he would have come here and presented a vision, as it were, Elson, as to how we were going to navigate,
Exactly.
the
Front and
the
center.
coming year. But we didn't see that. And if you notice, it is a consistent pattern
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
the government ministers when they present.
Mm.
It seems as though the first 30 minutes is spent
Yes.
deconstructing the AP and UAFC tenure,
Mm.
attacking opposition MPs, and then they use the last five
Mm.
to indicate what they plan to do. And I think that's very indicative of the fact that really
Mm.
there is nothing there. This budget is more of the same.
Mhm.
We could literally make some of the presentations that we made last year, and it will be just as relevant.
Absolutely.
And so that's what you'll see for the next week. They'll come on, they'll attack the AP and UFC administration for our 5-year tenure,
Yeah.
forgetting that they were in there 23 years before that.
Yep.
And then they will use the last 5 minutes
Yeah.
to propose
Yeah.
whatever it is that they will do. And so it's quite unfortunate because, as my colleague Tabitha said when she spoke, the people of Guyana really deserve ministers that could come to them to say, look, this is the vision that we have. This is what we're going to use the money for. And show Guyanese how their taxpayer dollars are being used. But we didn't see that.
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, we've even heard many government speakers reference a people-centered budget.
And we know where that came from.
Well,
I
that's
think
what
that
we've
that
been saying
was
for years.
Yeah, I think that was an approach that was coined by the leader of the opposition some
Absolutely.
years ago, and it has quietly crept into
Yeah.
Irfan Ali's lexicon or his speech, and so it shows that they have no original
Exactly.
ideas. They have no original plans, and I want people again to look out to see,
Yeah.
because a lot of what we have proposed and what we are proposing,
Yeah.
I guarantee you when the next elections come, you'll see the PPPC put it
Yeah.
in their manifesto as their ideas, because they really do not have anything new to offer the people of Guyana. And that is because they do not have the interests of the Guyanese people
Absolutely.
at heart. So
Absolutely. What we'll probably see is those ideas that are smaller in size, they'll include, but the big ones, which will have a major impact on poverty, they'll put to one side because they have to fund their corruption.
They
And their
really
major
do.
infrastructure
They
project
really, really
corruption.
do. And one of the things that I spoke about is the size of the PSIP, and it continues to
Absolutely.
increase monumentally.
Absolutely.
They have not closed the efficiency gap, so wastage will
Absolutely.
skyrocket,
Extremely
and
concerning. Yes.
we'll be wasting money.
Yes, and it is of course deeply ironic that we're borrowing money, and much of that same money that we're borrowing is going to be wasted in the course of that public sector investment program.
Absolutely, and as I think MP Finance, Director Finance, pointed out on the first day, our children are going to be saddled with about $500,000 in debt.
Considerable
Just
amounts
based
of debt.
on the fact that they will be raising the
Yeah.
external and internal
Yeah.
debt ceilings in the
Yeah.
coming months.
Yeah.
So you have them giving a pittance on one
Yeah.
hand, but saddling
Absolutely.
the people with debt. And I hope that one of the
Mm.
main points that we were able to
Yes.
bring across is that our foreign relations strategy
Sure.
has to receive urgent attention.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that Todd knows what he's doing at Tacuba Lodge.
Mm.
I'm not convinced that he understands.
Sure.
I'm not even sure if he runs the ministry. It just sounds to me like
Yeah.
it's run externally and
Mhm.
he's just there executing the whims and fancies of one man. The transactionalism that we continue to see is dangerous.
Mhm.
We are moving away from those
Mhm.
principles that we
Yeah.
adhere to.
Yeah.
And so what that means is that no, you're not sure where Guyana stands. And our friends don't know whether
Sure.
they can rely on us or not. So there's a danger
Yeah.
in abandoning those
Yeah.
positions in favor of the transactionalism.
Absolutely, absolutely. You also mentioned really that you're not seeing a robust across all fronts foreign policy thrust. We've of course observed that Venezuela has been very aggressive with its foreign policy, speaking to a wide range of Caribbean countries, some of which we have not even made appointments to.
Right.
Diplomatic appointments too, which I think is a very damning, revelation that you mentioned there. One other area that I think you mentioned and that is particularly concerning is the question of international trade. We know that Guyana
Right.
is the so-called belle of the ball,
At the
growth rate
moment,
at
at
the
the
moment,
moment, at
highest
the
growth rate
moment.
for multiple years. We're seeing an economy that has really tripled in a short space of time, and yet the Minister of Foreign Affairs does not seem to talk at all or to emphasize at all what kind of trade opportunities we've been able to get as a
I
country.
do not believe that he mentioned anything about international trade in his
Exactly.
speech. He did not indicate to us what are the international agreements that have been
Yes.
concluded and what
Yes.
the benefits would be
Absolutely.
to Guyana. So Guyanese have no
Yeah.
idea about what
Yeah.
is to be expected.
Yeah.
We have so many outstanding appointments
Mhm.
to key
Yes. Absolutely.
ambassadorial, to key missions
Exactly.
rather. Abroad,
Mhm.
and there's no sense of urgency.
Yes.
But you know why that is, Elson?
Yes.
The PPPC government views ambassadorships as jobs for the boys and rewards for
Yeah.
favors
Yeah.
granted.
Yeah.
And so they, instead of putting
Yeah.
competent, qualified professionals
Absolutely.
who will represent our national interest competently, they prefer to put the likes of Charandas Prasad, and we see how that ended.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
I anticipate that there will be some time before we see those positions being filled, because the reality is
Yeah.
that the people who are competent and capable,
Yes.
they do not believe
Yes.
are supporters of the PC government, missing the fact that they're there not to serve the
Mhm.
government, but to forward the interests of the state.
Mhm.
And so I think the state of foreign affairs and foreign relations again is quite regrettable.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
hopefully we are able to
Well,
hopefully they take
yes.
on those interventions that we recommended, and they're able
Exactly.
to right the ship, because it's badly listing right now.
Indeed, I think one core area that I think you highlighted and that we should focus on, which is that Guyana is in a perilous position. We are in one of the more difficult times in our country's history. And it is one of the, I think historically, this is one of the circumstances where the foreign ministry is so central
Absolutely.
to the country's overall destiny.
No, I mean, absolutely. Think about it. If we do not have an astute foreign policy
Exactly.
position, there might not be an 83,000
Exactly. So.
square miles to
Exactly so.
defend. And so it really requires
Yeah.
us to pay the attention to this issue that it deserves. But I think all in all, this budget is really more of the same.
Mhm.
And like I said in the speech, it's a waste of time sometimes talking to
Mm.
the government.
Mm.
They don't listen, they're stiff-necked. And so we have to begin now to let the people of Guyana understand that we are indeed the better option. Everything was not done perfectly in the last 5 years, but there is no doubt if you ask any ordinary Guyanese whether their lives
Yes.
significantly improved
Yeah.
during those 5 years, and the answer is a resounding yes.
Absolutely.
And when you ask them the quality of life now under this PPPC administration, they will tell you that it has deteriorated to the point that they are eating only one meal a day. And so we, I believe, are the better option for the people of Guyana. And we will continue to demonstrate that we continue to bring sound policies to them. When you have some policies, you don't need to engage in ad hominem and personal attacks the way we see the PPPC doing. I mean, calling a female member of parliament a prostitute and a stripper, it is now
Terrible.
deteriorated to a point that is completely unacceptable, and that must attract the outrage of every member of the National Assembly.
Absolutely, absolutely. It is. PPP likes to pay lip service to women and genders issues.
Absolutely.
But really, it to me is bizarre that you don't see sanction when those types of remarks are said in the National Assembly.
And
of
no
all
rebuke from the
places.
Speaker. And I think that is what is
That
most
too.
distressing, because he, of course, has a duty to preserve
Yes.
law and order in the House, to preserve decorum.
Yeah.
But he only seems to remember that duty when it comes to
Yeah.
the opposition.
Yeah, that's
know?
very much been the case
Yeah.
throughout these remarks. One thing I would also mention, just from your speech as you close off, is we've just seen, I believe it's Minister Parag, who's now taken over as local government minister,
Right.
say that she is the first minister first woman to be minister of local government. But I don't know if you recall her making protestation. Or making a protest over those remarks that were thrown out to a female MP. And so
No,
it
in
seems
fact,
to
she did not.
well, it seems to me that is just demonstrates what we're trying to say.
It's a lot of hypocrisy, and it's really regrettable. I think, and particularly as women in the House, there
Absolutely.
has to be a line that ought not to be crossed.
Absolutely.
I truly believe that
Yes.
personal attacks,
Yeah.
references to people's children,
Yeah.
people's families, those things must be off limits
Absolutely.
in the national
Absolutely.
debate. This objectifying of our women and crass and crude remarks, they really have no place in a civilized society. But it is to be expected that when you have nothing else to offer, that is what you do. And so that is what we see the PPPC ministers continuously doing.
Absolutely.
One can only hope that the Speaker could exhibit some courage and rise to the occasion and restore some kind of decorum in the House.
Yes.
We certainly reached in nadir.
I see where you're coming from. Unfortunately, I'm not too optimistic that we're going to see any
Hope
changes.
springs eternal.
Yeah, exactly. So we're gonna just bring in MP Sherwin Holder. Thank you so much for your time, MP.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure
wasn't busy
speaking
there.
with you, Alston. Always a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Thank you.
Hello again, Guyana. As we said, we're now going to be engaging with MP Sherwin Holder, who just gave remarks a short while ago in the National Assembly. Sherwin, powerful presentation.
Yeah, also, thanks. I always try my best. I'm on the ground, always gathering information,
Exactly. Yes.
communicating with the
Yes.
ordinary citizens, and so once you do that,
Yes.
you definitely
There you
would
go.
be in a good position
Absolutely.
to present the facts.
Sherman, you touched on a lot of critical issues in the non-oil sector, in the oil sector. You know, we've had quite a lot of disappointment and controversies over the course of the last year. Let's start off with some of your remarks about gold. There's been a lot said over the course of several speakers regarding the state of our gold industry. I don't know if you want to make some remarks to elaborate on what you had said.
Yes, Elson. Most definitely. Gold for many years, as you would know and as the public would know, uh, was the sector that carried our economy for
Yes.
so many years when rice was failing,
Yes.
sugar obviously failing for many
Absolutely.
many years, for decades.
Yeah.
Gold was the one that was
Foreign
really,
currency earner.
yeah, the main foreign currency
Yeah.
earner. And it is really, really sad to see the state that it's in and the direction that
Yes.
we're heading in. Clearly, we are um,
Yes.
moving in a direction of the Dutch disease. We're moving
Yeah.
in a direction where we're ignoring the other sectors
Yeah.
and focusing. The only focus we seem to be having is on the oil.
Yeah.
I don't know if to describe it as a focus, but
Mm.
certainly we're looking in the direction
Yeah.
of oil. In terms of some of the statistics, well, I've laid it out clearly in my presentation. Gold, although we see that decline, and first I must say there's a huge difference between gold operations and gold production from 2015 all the
Yeah.
way to 2019 during the coalition period. And we can go far back to check
Yes.
2014, the period before that. We saw similar problems, maybe not 2014, but in the years
Yeah.
prior, we saw similar problems with gold in terms of declaration,
Exactly. Yes.
um,
Enforcement.
enforcement, and everything. And we seem to be back at
Yes.
where we started, unfortunately. But gold is still a sector that is capable of carrying the economy. I mean, not as compared with oil, but it's still quite significant. It still contributes to 8% of the GDP. As mentioned in my presentation,
Yes.
60 to 70% of the foreign export we
Yeah.
owe it to gold. So there needs to be a greater focus. The Ministry of Natural Resource has to really be ramped up. We have to look at the issues facing, especially small miners, because I should say small miners continue to outperform
Yeah.
the bigger companies. We've actually seen a drop in the production of the big companies,
Mm.
and that is quite surprising.
Mm.
That is quite surprising. From 180 something thousand
Yeah.
ounces to down all the way to 109,000. So small miners are still the backbone of that sector, and we need to pay special attention to them. We need to. There's so much more within the sector that we can do to advance that industry.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of the things we would also mention is that as that is a main foreign currency earner and it has not been performing as it had in the past, we've seen a foreign currency shortage in Guyana for a couple of years now, which the Private Sector Commission and the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce have repeatedly complained about. That is one area. I know that you touched on both oil and natural gas. We've seen several controversies regarding the oil industry. The latest one is the question of the $2 billion parent company guarantee that is supposed to be in place, and where the EPA is not providing that guarantee to the within the court case for Guyanese to verify that it exists. What are your thoughts regarding Vice President Jaglio saying that he cannot influence the EPA to ensure that they provide that documentation. We've seen really a trend of secrecy from this government in many areas. So I don't know if that's a repeat of the same approach.
Uh, Look, the comments by Vice President Barajagdio are very unfortunate. They are disappointing, and as I described them in my budget presentation, I think it is outright unpatriotic. Um, here is a man in a government that is saying that they are for the country, they are for transparency and accountability, and a judge rules that, look, you've
Yes.
got to show proof of this guarantee, lodge this $2 billion,
Yes.
while we give we hear this trial in a fair
Yes.
manner. We give both sides a fair hearing.
Yes.
And so, but the judge thought that there should be security because of the nature of the matter. If there is an oil spill,
Yes.
as the case progresses,
Exactly.
then we will surely suffer.
Yes.
On the other side, if they end up winning the matter, their operations could have been shut down. So it was like a balancer,
Mm.
an intermediary,
Intermediary.
intermediary move that would
Yes.
allow the status quo to remain, but to ensure that, but at the same time ensure that there is
Yeah.
security
Yeah.
for our country and our
Yeah.
people. And so it is unheard of, it's unprecedented, his comments, and to say, look, we know the reality of this country, we know who is in charge, we know who has the
Mm.
power,
Mhm.
who wields power in this country, and it's definitely Barajagdio.
Yeah.
And for him to look people in with a straight face and to say that he can't
Yeah.
he can't advise or ask EPA to show the guarantee, and there is no obligation. He went forward to say there is
Yeah.
no obligation
Yeah.
for EPA, so he's already telegraphing
Absolutely.
the decision.
Yeah.
He's already telegraphing to them. Once the vice president says so, then EPA will echo the same thing. And so, that industry is controlled by him, and that's the way he likes it. They're heavy on secrecy. There's no transparency. Then there's no accountability, and we've got to bring that to an end.
Absolutely. Absolutely. On a related note, we saw the government is due to engage in an arbitration process to retrieve over 100 million US that the first audit indicated that Guyana could could recover from expenses that were charged to the country by the offshore oil operator. We've not seen the government say pretty much anything since they said that they're going to go to arbitration. Are you optimistic at all that the government will deal seriously with this issue, or do we again face really a situation where the government is not putting citizens of Guyana's interests first?
Elson, historically, the PPP do not put the citizens first. If you look at their track record, you look at every their handling of the economy, you look at the handling of every industry, the way they've operated in the past and how they continue to operate from 2020, they certainly will not put the people's interests first. To the extent that they join the court proceedings in that
Yes.
that environmental
Yes.
issue with the guarantee, that they joined Exxon
Mm.
to fight against the people of this country, to
Exactly.
fight against a ruling that is in favor
Yeah.
of the people of this country. It tells the whole story. So I'm not optimistic. In fact, I know that it is likely that nothing will become of it. It seems as though we will lose 100 million plus dollars. This issue has been around for quite some time now, and
Yeah.
they've said absolutely nothing
Yeah.
on it. And so my recommendations in the budget was that they put immediately a team of experts together,
Mhm.
auditors,
Yes.
arbitrators,
Experts, yes.
those kind of experts, and
Yes.
put that team immediately together and
Yes.
to get the ball rolling on this issue. But tell you the truth, it likely will not happen. Not
Yeah.
under a Barrett Jack led PPP government.
Yes, well, $100 million seems to be a drop in the bucket to the PvP these days. Not interested in such small monies, even though that is a huge amount of money, really, for the average Guyanese. We've also seen with the gas the energy project that not following a feasibility study has resulted in the cost there being over $100 million more than it should be. You made some remarks regarding ensuring that we have a proper natural gas plan, gas utilization master plan, and other and proper assessments regarding natural gas. I do with your sense is not how we will approach it.
Look, Elson, the government has a strange approach to huge projects. They don't like studies. On the other hand, the Barjagdi goes out there and he says, we at AFC like studies and we do too many studies, but those studies are critical to ensuring that you get the kind of, well, first of all, that a project is worthwhile. It make economic sense. You have to look at other issues, for example, environmental issues, and a whole host of things. So studies are quite important, especially when you take into consideration the huge sums that the taxpayers will have to stand. But this project currently they're struggling to garner the finance, and so the taxpayers are paying for that the current pipeline project to the gas to shore project. And so it is absolutely important that studies done. And I believe part of the reason why the the Bank in America is not releasing those funds is because of the lack of feasibility studies, the lack of evidence to show that the project will be profitable, and the secrecy around the project. It might turn out that it can be very, very profitable. There are lots of things if they do the right thing. There are lots of things that you can do, lots of products that can be derived from our natural gas. But you have to conduct the kind of studies that will provide that kind of information to you so that you make the right decisions. There are other options to natural gas. There's solar. There's other alternative from the energy perspective. But there are other products that you can get. So it can turn out to be a very feasible project. But you've just got to do this study. We've got to get rid of this the way of doing things secretly, and we've got to account. We've got to be transparent, and we've got to account for the taxpayers' dollars.
Absolutely, we've heard the vice president say that the gas energy project is a no-brainer. That is a $2 billion US project. So they hear him say that that's a no-brainer. Makes me wonder what exactly is a brainer.
I look, the more significant the project is, I won't say it's a no-brainer. You've got to tread more carefully.
Exactly.
You've got to tread more carefully, and it is the same no-brainer attitude that places us in problem with the Skeldon factory. It is the same no-brainer attitude that places us in problems with the Amelia Falls. It is the same attitude that had us abandon the what's the cable name? That fiber optic cable at the tune of billions of dollars.
Exactly.
Billions of dollars wasted. No-brainer attitude with the investment in Clico.
Mm-hmm.
How did that end up? And I want to make this point. These are all projects, or what you consider brainchild projects of Barrett Jack Dio. It's a complete failure. And people need to recognize that. The faster people can recognize, the better they will be.
Absolutely. Sharon, if there's anything else you wanted to highlight regarding your speech, just as we close off. As I said, strong presentation, many points that I think were quite robust.
I covered. I'm shadowing natural resources, so there are a lot of different
Yes.
subsectors within the
Yeah.
within the ministry. For example, the sand mining,
Yeah.
sand and stone. And one of the things I recommended was that there needs to be a land use policy
Yeah.
with regards to that. If you look at how they mine the sand on the highway, Linden Suicide Highway, it looks like there is no order
Yeah.
in things. And then you're going to build a city, a new city there. There are other things you need, road networks, etc.
Absolutely.
We got to cater for a growing tourism
Yeah.
industry. There's so many areas that you gotta consider. So you have to do housing, everything in industrial sites,
Mhm.
parks, etc.
Yeah.
For leisure. So you've got to
Yeah.
create a land use policy and
Yeah.
designate specific areas.
Yeah.
This area is for mining, that area is for housing. This is where my industrial estate would be. This is where the road will go. That sort of thing. But again, the PPP do not believe in these kinds of studies. They don't believe in these kinds of plans, master plan, and so that is why they always get it wrong. So I had a bunch of recommendations in that area. One coming back to just circling back to mining. And especially in gold mining and well mining in general. One of the major problems for small miners and even medium scale miners is the accessibility and availability of lands that are rich in minerals. Now we've got to open up new lands. They've been working these lands, reworking them, exhausting them, and that could very well contribute to the decrease that we are seeing. But there's no focus there. So what I said to them is that you have to conduct new studies, and we've got to be bold. We only cannot look at. We don't need to look at gold alone, gold and diamond alone. There are other minerals out there that certainly we can get into. I said to the assembly that we need to make Guyana an investment hub with respect to minerals. And to do that, you have to conduct your own surveys. Survey these new lands, survey the entire country, their minerals like cobalt, lithium, whole host of exotic rare earth minerals. There's a whole host of them that are in limited supplies, but our geology is ripe for that.
Absolutely.
We know that there is a great possibility of these minerals existing, and so you've got to do the studies. A lot of small scale companies don't want to come to do prospecting. They want to know that the area is de-risked. They want to know that there are studies already conducted which point to the existence of certain deposits, and so they can come and get to it immediately. That is what is required. A real vision for the natural resource sector is required, and I'm saying to the public that is what we will provide when we get government in 2025.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time, Sherwin. I think we covered quite a lot of really important issues for Guyana's non-oil economy as well as oil economy and the country as a whole. We're going to take a break for right now, but you can continue to look out for our programming as we continue coverage of Budget 2024.